welcome. This is the Market Wrap. I'm Agam Vakil. What we've seen in the markets today is some gains coming through and perhaps taken by surprise as well. And some may argue not necessarily, considering we did see the indices advance and perhaps taking cues from the Asian peers. We've seen Z Entertainment. That was certainly a surprise, gaining 8%. And we have Dr. Reddy's as well, one of the top gainers on the indices, up 4%. Bajaj Auto, Tata Motors and Eicher Motors all reacting perhaps to the volumes numbers. Of course, we'll be watching out for that. HDFC and India Bulls Housing Finance also advancing in terms of heavyweights. But BPCL and oil and gas, along with Indian Oil Corporate declining in trade, and perhaps the largest laggards on the indices. But let's talk about your broader markets, and we do have about 3 gainers for 2 losers on the NSE 500. Adani Power stands out in trade. We're going to talk about that in a little more detail. VA Tech, Godrej Properties, Bombay Dyeing, Suntech Realty, all advancing in trade. Escorts has had a very good day of trade, good longs building into the system too for it. But Thomas Cook is under pressure, as is the case for Gen Irrigation, which did see a little bit of recovery in the last week, but nope, today we're selling is back. And it's the same for Cox and Kings, locked in a lower circuit. Quest Corp is the other one where we are looking at a decline of around 4%. Watch out for that. In fact, on an intraday basis, it hit the mark of around 550. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one. But on that note, let me bring in our markets editor, Neeraj Shah, for his perspective. Neeraj, I reckon everyone will be watching out for the budget, though we're not expecting too much, but about a good 4 more sessions left. So what's your reading?
Yeah, I mean, today seems to be a global-led rally, though we've not done as well as the rest of the world would, and that would be in part due to what you said, Agam, I presume, that budget coming up, so markets would want to stay light, and that was evident in the volumes today. Cash market volumes less than 25,000 crores, FN volumes less than the first day of the new series, less than 6 lakh crores as well. So it seemed to be a low volume day for sure. I presume that the participation would also have been low, and you saw the usual budget potential rumored budget beneficiaries, so real estate, etc., fertilizers, all of them were up and up. Otherwise, the market was largely devoid of action aside of news. So, interesting day of trade, but I reckon, as you said, until the budget comes out, you'd probably not have the market really going up too much. There is anyways a key point of resistance at 12,000, 12,100. Really difficult to see those levels getting beaten, even if the world markets are doing well today. US is doing well today, so the rub of green will be on our side tomorrow morning. Let's see if that lasts.
Well, let's see if that lasts. Neeraj, thank you for that, those thoughts there. But let's take stock of how the auto sales have turned out. Now, we understand that registrations have been on an 18-month low, and of course that story is up for you on the website to read. But I'm going to get in Yash Upadhyay to talk to us about how the month of June has panned out for the sector.
Well, it's a mixed bag, Agam. So I'll start first with Maruti, and their numbers came in 14% lower on a year-on-year basis. That number stood at about 1,24,700 units. However, the street was working with a number in excess of 1,30,000 units, which was a negative, and this was mainly driven on account of weak sales in the domestic market, which were down close to 15%. Exports business was marginally up about 6% to 9,847 units. Bajaj Auto, the numbers were extremely in line with the expectation. They sold close to 4,04,000 units, again in line with the expectation of 4,05,000 units, and this was mainly on account of the increased domestic sales. This was mainly on account of the increased export sales. Now their exports business that saw volumes increased by about 11%. The domestic business was largely flat, down about 1%, but it's also the commercial vehicle business that needs to be mentioned over here, because that saw a big 20% drop. They sold only about 53,000 units versus a number in excess of 67,000. On the other hand, Ashok Leyland came out with a disappointing set of numbers. Their total sales were down close to 19%, mainly on account of a 25% drop in the MHCV side, whereas the light commercial vehicles sales were largely in line, almost only 3% down. But a big name to watch out for is Escorts. The stock was up 4%, and that was on the back of numbers coming in far ahead of the expectation. So they sold close to 8,960 units in the month of June, which was a 10% drop, but the street was working with a number closer to 8,200, 8,300 units. So on the back of that, we saw a big move on the higher side. The domestic sales continued to remain under pressure, down about 11%, while their export business was positive, although it doesn't contribute a whole lot to their overall revenues.
Well, Yash, thank you so much for getting us those details. As you can see, well, we have seen the auto index, which is up as much as 1.3%. We've seen gains in, well, Bajaj Auto, Maruti Suzuki, of course, well, ending the day with marginal losses, but, you know, otherwise, it's been, well, fairly evenly poised and perhaps more gains than losers. On that note, let me bring in Sharad Dubey for two other stocks that he's spotting for us today. Sharad, what's on your list?
Yes, I think firstly we'll need to talk about Adani Power. The stock also had a really good move and it increased as high as almost 17% in the day after the board had given a nod to acquire 100% stake in Korba West Power and GMR Chhattisgarh. Now if you see what the stock reaction has been, there has been a consolidation in the past 4 trading sessions, marginally going up, but then today the stock went up really high and it ended at around 60 odd rupees. So basically both deals are expected to be completed by July end, and the thermal power capacity is supposed to increase to almost 12,410 megawatts. Now if you see the deal, for the first deal we see that for Korba West Power around 204 odd crore rupees will be given to creditors and around 1,000 crores of debt restructuring will happen. But GMR Chhattisgarh Energy is something which we should be watching out for, as the enterprise value was around 4,800 odd crore rupees. Mind you, 52% of ownership of GMR Chhattisgarh Energy is held by lenders and the remaining by the GMR group. Up next, Agam, we have taken Deepak Nitrite. The stock, if you see, went up by almost 5% today and ended the day at around 301 rupees. This is based on the news that the ARM, in its press release, its arm, Deepak Phenolics, stated that around $400 million would be saved in imports. This is basically on the government's rule of import substitution of phenol and acetone, which are important products for the company. So Agam, these two stocks are actually buzzing in this trade today.
Okay, Sharad, thanks for getting us those two other stocks which we are keeping an eye on. So gains in some of those names, and of course we'll be keeping an eye on not only these names but several others which we have spoken about today. And on that note, it's a wrap on the markets, but lost my line up. Stay tuned to Bloomberg Net.